Hello, I'm Joan Capurro. It's my pleasure to host this segment of the Marin Women's Hall of Fame show. It's hard to imagine Marin County without the work of countless women shaping the life, culture, mores, and landscape of Marin County. From a Frank Lloyd Wright designed civic center to high-quality public schools, artworks in San Rafael, vast areas of open space, innovative businesses, and a robust network of nonprofits. Women have put their mark on Marin County. And Marin's women's contributions go far beyond our county. Honorees have been in space, to the Arctic, created social changing documentaries, served in the U.S. Senate, and helped integrate holistic mind, body, medicine, and Western medical practices. Since 1987, the Hall of Fame has inducted over 125 Marin women of distinction, and today it's my pleasure to introduce Julie Abrams, who was inducted in 2011 for her work in business. Julie is a friend. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you, Joan.
Thank you for coming today.
My pleasure.
So you've said that early in your life you identified a path that embraced the Judeo-Christian traditions of service, sacrifice, and encouraging strength and transformation among the most marginalized community members. I'm sure many young women would like to know how you identified these lifelong passions at a young age, something that I've seen in you since I met you.
Well, thanks, Joan. You know, I grew up in the Catholic schools, and I certainly think that early influence of social justice and really learning a solid set of values was important in my development. And the truth is, I think, unlike maybe some of my peers, I really believed it.
Yes.
I really, I heard it and I thought, oh, I'm supposed to give away my worldly goods and be the Good Samaritan. Certainly from early on, even during, history lessons, I was the one who cried, during, everything seemed to affect me so deeply. So I think it was the table set by good values and upbringing, but also I think genetics. I think I'm just a crier and somebody who has sort of deep empathy for other people. And I feel really like I've been very blessed in my life to have a lot of opportunity, and it pains me deeply to see when other people don't have that opportunity.
Well, but you've always been a very passionate person. I remember the first time I met you when you talked about what these women were doing and how they were getting into business. They were definitely marginalized. I could feel it. Yeah. You can sense those kind of things. So it's not I mean, you've been wonderful, and what you just said is something I would have expected you to say, because that's how you act. I love that.
Thank you, Joan. Thank you.
And you have 2 wonderful children. There's another wonderful thing about you. Kenneth is a nationally ranked swimmer and a freshman at Harvard.
Yes.
Elizabeth is an extraordinary violinist who is in her last year at Oberlin. In addition, you have had many other children in your home, including foster children. I remember talking about that a couple of times with you. So what's your secret? Because all children have so many different needs, and you have them in their vulnerable growing years. That makes you a miracle mom and relates to what you probably just said, but talk about that a little bit, would you?
Thank you. I guess from both my upbringing and also my academic education in human development, social policy, I really made it my commitment to learn about how to set the table for the best possible learning and growth environment. And for me, I believe in loving children so deeply that there's no question in their mind that they are well established and that they have that sense of safety and self. And so many children don't get that. And their lives are, when they are not strongly rooted, it seems like people really are sort of, any wind that comes along can knock them over. And so I knew that for my own children and for other children whose care has been entrusted to me and my beautiful husband before, really helping to solidify those roots has been important to us. And one of the most beautiful things my daughter has ever said is she was explaining to somebody about her mom, and she said, you know, when you're with my mom, you just feel like you are loved so deeply and ferociously that she sees right through you and into your soul. And to have your child say that to you, I think is so powerful. But I also, probably the other really important element of parenting that I believe in is I absolutely believe in self-fulfilling prophecies. And so if I say to you, you are brilliant and beautiful and kind and responsible, it is unbelievable to see how children change their behavior immediately when you tell them they are that. Of course, consequently, if you say negative things, that becomes what they identify with and how they define themselves. And so whenever anyone, my husband on occasion, or anyone else around my children would say something negative, I would immediately jump on it. It was such a visceral response for me. I really believe that you can affect behavior change in children and completely affect how they imagine their future when you tell them that they are what you actually imagine them to be.
I'd agree with you. You know, Julie, it's funny because that seems so simple.
Yeah.
You would think more people would understand that.
Right.
But, and it's true with employees.
Yes. Yeah.
With
sure.
friends.
Sure. That's
all
right.
of it. And, you know, it's just, you are a miracle mom, but you're a miracle mom because of your beliefs. And that goes out to everybody. I remember the first time I met you, I thought, she's so nice. I don't even know her, and she's really nice. And every time I see her, friendly and loving, and that comes out. There's no better way to sell anything to anybody than to be really caring. So you're the perfect person for that. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
And that's
you're
all.
Very kind.
Well, how many children, by the way, have you had? Do you know? I mean, come live with you that you've helped to guide.
You know, we've had a number of family members. We had a neighbor whose child came and lived with us, and we had 2 foster children. So we had exchange students. So I would say about a dozen extra people have lived with us over the years.
Do you just sort of put a sign on your front door that says room open?
No, but my sister actually says I'm going to need to rent a daughter now that my kids are in college. So, you know, it fills me up to have somebody to care for. It's certainly
you're working so that you're filling up other people, and adults need it. Some of them need it more than the kids do.
Yeah.
Your husband's Hispanic, so what Hispanic influences helped shape the woman you are today?
Well, he's a Mexican immigrant. He immigrated when he was 30, so I'm married to a real a real
Oh.
Hispanic, a real Mexican.
All right.
And I met him, and he was just visiting, so he didn't even speak the language when I met
Amazing.
him. So it's been such a great joy for me to
Oh.
really get to experience fully another culture.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of things that I really admire about and embrace about the Hispanic culture, from the commitment and belief in family.
Yes. Very
To
family.
I learned
Too.
so much from a lot of the Mexican mothers about how to raise kids, and when the baby's crying, you just distract it and things like that,
Yeah,
right?
the secrets.
But I think honestly, more than this sort of cultural difference, I found the most beautiful man on the face of this earth to be my life partner, and
That's
I've learned so much from him and continue to every day about kindness and patience and grace, and for me that's the biggest lesson I've learned,
Oh,
is
that's
those things from
fabulous.
him that I felt like I could never have imagined finding in a life partner. So,
Good for you.
and he's really disciplined, and he works out every day. So I'm still trying to learn that, Joan.
Oh my gosh. I couldn't live with anybody that perfect.
I don't know about perfect, but he's a great
Oh,
life partner.
That's fabulous.
Feel
You know
very
what?
lucky.
It is never, to me, it's not about ethnicity. It's about the person. It's always about the person.
Of course.
Color never makes any difference, and money never makes any difference.
No. But I'll
And
tell you,
you know that.
when you've been with someone for 24 years today, and they tell
really?
you how beautiful you are and make you feel
Congratulations.
like you're a great person, boy, does that make life wonderful.
That's like a
So,
soulmate.
it sure is, yeah.
I know, it's wonderful. I've been married 50 years to a great Italian man, and believe me, that ethnicity is different than what I know too.
Well, and I think that, I think for so many women, when we all, the book Lean In, she talks about
Right.
making a conscious choice with your life partner. And for me, I never, ever would have been able to have the time, the wings, the space, the confidence even to do all the things that I've done if it hadn't been for the partner that I chose. And what a blessing, what a gift to have had that foresight at such a young age.
Well, that's why we know how important love is. That's what
Indeed.
really keeps it going. That's why you've done such a good job. So you hope you give them part of your paycheck. You've gone to two great institutes of higher learning, Northwestern and the University of Chicago. What's your take on the importance of education in your life and others?
Well, I believe that education comes in all kinds of colors, and certainly having had the opportunity to go to such amazing institutions opens up the world to you and makes it so much easier. I certainly know people who've had different kinds of life paths who I think are brilliant and contribute so much. But it sure makes life better when you have the tools and you meet the people who are the thinkers, the original thinkers.
Right.
My son is taking a class right now at Harvard, and he says that the professor wrote the book, and he's learning more from the lectures than he ever would from any book. And what a gift to be with the most brilliant thinkers in the world at the source. And I think that education truly is the sort of the great leveler, and allows people to jump economic classes,
Yes, it does.
for sure.
But I don't think you can even get a job today without a college education. I mean, the good side of it is that that's encouraging that everybody needs to go to college.
It certainly is. However, you can get a job. You can actually make your own job, and that's what I spent most of my life.
Nice opening.
Yeah, that's what I spent most of my adult life really championing, which is for people who didn't have the opportunities that I've had. They can make amazing businesses, and I don't think education is the source of all courage or creativity or innovation. And so some of the most interesting and exciting businesses that I saw were from the people who had the hardest life leading up to their businesses.
Oh,
So,
yes. Well, I mean, you're a good example of why you always want to encourage going to college because absolutely it's always going to benefit you. But I've known a lot of people who have done very well who didn't go, and it's people like the women that you're helping who have artistically bought some of their beautiful jewelry. And so that's there's a mixed message, I think, about colleges.
Yeah.
You need to go, but you understand you can still do well.
Well, if you have the choice and opportunity to go,
right.
and you can go to the best in the world, definitely go. I would never suggest someone not take advantage of those opportunities. I feel like that just makes life easier, and you learn so much, and you have so many amazing connections for the rest of your life when you get a great education.
Right, exactly. Well, speaking about that, you just recently stepped down as CEO of Women's Initiative for Self-Employment after leading the organization for 10 very successful years. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, I'm taking everything that I learned throughout my great education and my work life and sharing it with other people who are being courageous enough to lead their own companies and social justice organizations. And
what
it's
kind of
really wonderful.
Can you tell us?
Of course.
Okay.
I'm working with some companies that are in the biotech industry, and I'm also working with a lot of social sector organizations I really admire. There's some organizations who are doing wonderful work for women in particular around the world. An organization called Open a Door is one of the organizations that I'm supporting, but also mentoring one of the, of course, back to the sort of bringing people into my home, if you will, but my virtual home. I'm mentoring a young woman to get into college in the United States who is from Rwanda.
Wow.
And hopefully we'll have a chance to host her over the holidays and the summers. And,
how did you meet her?
Through Open a Door, which
Through
is just a really wonderful organization that just started a couple years ago because of a woman who saw a need and created a really amazing connection for, the Millennial Development Goals at the UN were all around secondary and education for girls, trying to get primary and secondary education, but there's really nothing for tertiary education, and so this really creates a path for those girls who've now, after the 14 years after the millennium started, who are now getting ready to go to college, and some of them are leadership potential around the world. So
that's great.
Great to be part of that.
Yeah,
I am indeed.
Well, as a matter of fact, looking back at your clients that you had under initiative, what are some of the successful entrepreneurs that you'd like to talk about or tell a story about that's been really great?
Well, there's some famous women who went through the Women's Initiative program that are really fun to talk about. One of the women was on public assistance when she came to Women's Initiative and had been for 11 years. And she started a massage business called On the Spot Massage. And she ended up having, the last I looked, 100 employees, and she was just flying.
Fabulous.
And another woman who is written up in the Harvard Business Review because of her cool marketing of her business. Right before social media really took off, Bake Sale Betty wore a blue wig and a 50s outfit and launched a pretty cool business that is iconic.
Wonderful.
And totally transformed a neighborhood by bringing so many people to this cool business. But I'll tell you, Joan, those successful, cool women, while inspiring to me, were as inspiring, were the women whose lives were really terrible. Women who experienced being sex trafficked or otherwise who grew up in abusive homes. People who really have been through the worst of the human experience and were able to, create a life of dignity and support themselves. And there is nothing like saying you own a business to really propel someone's confidence and their potential in life. You're not working for someone else. You don't feel at risk in the same way. And that's a pretty amazing thing to be able to participate in giving someone.
It's really, in a way, almost shocking to me how women get out of something like that.
That's right.
And bring themselves around. I agree with you. That's almost more important in the sense that how do you come from there?
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just never forget. One day I was walking through the office and there was a woman kneeling on the floor. And I said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" She's like, "I'm praying that I will get a loan.
Oh.
And I talked to her, and this was the third loan she was applying for, and I really wanted to say, you're going to get it. If you paid back the first 2 loans on time, there's no question you're going to get this loan. But this woman had literally, at 8 years of age, she was sold to a man, and she lived in his garage for 20 years before he ended up dying and she escaped. And if you think about that, and she had 2 children at that time from him. She had no education. She really had nothing. She was completely isolated from the world, and she was running her own little business and surviving.
And she came back.
Yeah.
That is wonderful.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd heard some of those stories, not that one for sure, but then also you told me when I first met you, we were discussing about every $30 or every dollar of investment is returned by 30 from these women who go into business for themselves. I'm sure that helped to make it successful for you in going to businesses for some donations.
Well, I'll tell you, for the mission was ripe for that.
Right.
But that result and the way that we were able to define that is really part of my commitment and belief. I am all about results, quality, and living with integrity. And every thing I do, everyone I work with, my commitment is to being efficient and figuring out how we can do more with the resources we have. And I'll tell you, it was such a joy to work with other people who believe the same thing, and to really build a culture of performance and quality. It was such an amazing thing to be able to work with all these fabulous, cool, bossy women.
Yeah.
And a couple good men,
but you knew how to sell it because you had such great, strong belief in those women.
Absolutely.
And to help them. And I remember attending an event in San Francisco. I think Janiana Heroes was speaker that night.
Yeah,
it was fabulous. It was huge. Yeah. And they were so creative.
Yeah.
The kinds of things that they were selling. I don't think I went to another one.
Well, it's one of the best shopping opportunities you have is going to one of those events that we put on, for sure. But I really think that if you're smart, you figure out how to create a message that resonates, that invites other people to get involved, and to create a real a sense of movement. And I think there are other things that one can do to have that kind of an exciting, energizing type of interaction with social sector organizations. I think for me, one of the things I'm very good at is figuring out how to help people who've worked their entire lives in raising their families and building their careers, and really realize that in that next stage of their life they want to give back and make the world a better place, and feel like they have a legacy, and helping to engage them in a way, speak their language, and is a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely.
I just helped a friend connect with 2 organizations, the Women's Funding Network and Leader Spring. She just finished as a CFO of a bank and just retired. And she wrote me the most gushing thank you message. And I thought, well, here I got a thank you from Leader Spring and a thank you from Charmaine. How great is that? I just got to connect everybody, and everyone's thanking me.
And all you do is connect them, and they really do the work, and that's what really feels good.
It does.
I mean,
it does.
Really,
and you do that all the time, Joan. You're the magic woman in making connections, too.
It does feel good when all you have to do. Sometimes people just don't realize how wonderful they are. When you hook them up with the right person, it just makes it work. Yeah. You don't ever know why. It just does.
And people want to give their skills their resources in a way that is meaningful to them. And figuring out how to make it meaningful for everybody is a win-win, and really makes the world a better place.
I have a belief that I see in you too, and that is you cannot give enough of yourself or your money away. Yeah. It comes back twofold.
That's right.
It has been just amazing. So,
well, and hanging on is not, doesn't create a wave of goodwill or generosity.
No, that's exactly right. No, and I wanted to ask you, as a matter of fact, about your boards. Yeah. You work for nonprofit boards and for for-profit boards. So you want to explain just a little bit how that differs? in your
Sure.
experience?
Well, one of them I get paid, and the other I have to pay to be involved. So that's the difference between corporate boards and
Holy
nonprofit
cow.
boards.
That's
So
true, I know.
the reality is finance.
No matter where.
It's governance. The same concepts are at all of those places. In every board I'm on, it seems like we repeat the similar issues.
Yeah.
Of course, different life cycle stages of the companies and nonprofits. But it's all about people. And how do
You're
you?
good at that.
Well, how do you create an environment where everybody thrives? And that's both operationally when you're managing your team, but also at the board level. How do you really create an environment where every board member, meets their potential in being involved?
Right.
It's an art, not just a science.
Well, it's so important. That's the only way it's going to be successful.
That's right.
You have to be.
That's right.
We used to talk about that.
Yeah.
Bank, about
Yeah.
if you can't do something good for the board, you don't want to be on it.
Right.
It's just not good for them.
That's right. It's not good for anyone.
So let's talk about, you were inducted into the Women's Hall of Fame in 2011. So how did you feel when you were told that you were selected?
I've received a couple of awards in my life.
Oh, yeah, I know.
But
And
this
should.
this one was extremely meaningful. I think there's something about getting recognition in your own community, and the people that I admire so much. It was so humbling to be part of a group of women like you, who I feel like are iconic leaders. Boy, was that such an honor. And then there's something very lovely and sweet about the way the Marin Women's Hall of Fame is designed, if you will, where it feels like, I may not be running my organization anymore, but I get recognized for my contribution, my leadership forever. And that really is so meaningful.
It's very affirming, isn't it?
It is. It was. I have to tell you, it's one of the. It's my favorite award, and what a gift to me.
Thank you, Julie. That's wonderful, because I feel the same way. I agree with you. I never would have thought I would be in the Hall of Fame, but I want to thank you so much for coming today and telling your story, and I'm almost jealous, except that I can't leave Marin County, so I'll have to stay with it. But anyway, thank you so much, Julie.
Thank you, Joan.
And we love you sharing your life with us, and we want to thank the viewers for tuning in. And the Marin Women's Hall of Fame is a project of the YWCA of San Francisco and Marin. If you would like to learn more about the Hall of Fame and our honorees, please visit www.ywcasf-marin.org. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.